Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What I'm going to discuss today is the post-death preparation. The Risalas talk about certain responsibilities we have leading to death. When someone is in their deathbed, there's certain things we need to do. For example, they need to be lying the bottom of their feet facing the Qibla, such that if they sit up, if the person sits up, then they would be facing the Qibla. But that's before they pass. After they pass, there's certain responsibilities, and it's responsibility of the communities. If anyone passes away, if a Muslim passes away in this city and they're not buried properly, all the Muslims will be held accountable. It's a responsibility. We call it wajib kifaya. So different people need to know this and need to how to do it. Brothers need to know this, sisters need to know it. Brothers need to wash brothers' bodies, sisters need to wash sisters' bodies. Okay, brothers should not be washing sisters' bodies, sisters should be doing that. Unless it's in a situation where a person's wife has passed, that's a different situation. The husband can actually do that. But otherwise, women should wash bodies of women, and men should wash the bodies of men. I'm going to try to explain this not based on the order of rules we have in the Risala. I want to do it in a very practical way. Okay, let me tell you something about experience. I've had two experiences of washing two bodies, and I can tell you that you can easily be very surprised when you get there. The first body I had to wash was the first trip I made for a speech. This is Northern California, when I was 21, okay, and then I was put in a situation I had to do a body. I've read all the rules, but I've never actually done it. So I go in, and then this body is embalmed, because the person died in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was taken to California. What they do is they embalm the body, which means when you get there, it's not a very pleasant scene. The head of the person has been cut open and stitched together, okay? And from the neck down all the way to here is cut open, stitched together, glued, okay? Behind the ears, you'll see that. Between their legs, you'll see that. So it's not under their arms, there's cuts and then stitches. All right, it's not a very pleasant scene. The second experience I had just recently, a couple months back, a family called us. We need the ghusl for this brother. He passed away in a car accident. The police has a rule, they do an autopsy. So we arrived there. It's not a pleasant scene at all. You have to be ready for this. They did not do a good job at all. They have cut the brother open. There's slices right there and right there. 3 strips, and they have barely sewn it. So everything is there. You're seeing everything. Okay, it's not a very pleasant scene. The family needs to be kept away from that. The brother's son tried coming in. He saw a little bit. He said, "You're not going to see this. You just keep out." Okay. For us, it's difficult to see, and much less for someone else. We have to know that, you know, the person, these are not good things that happen to a person, but inshallah, Allah is having mercy. We shouldn't allow those things to get in the way of us doing the right thing. So I didn't take off the shirt of this dummy here, this mannequin, because that's one of the things. When we get there, the brother has been through an accident. There's clothing, there's fabric, there's different things on there. One of the things you need to do is to try to remove it. Now, in the funeral homes and where you're able to do this nowadays, they usually have equipment that you need to acquaint yourselves with and to know how to use it. For example, they have devices where you can raise the body. You don't have to worry about, oh, how we're going to do this. The body gets very heavy after they pass. There's no soul in it. It's very heavy. So they have devices, machines that are up on top. You have to put these little, I guess, what are they called? These hooks or whatever on the body, these wraps or pieces under the body, and then you connect them. You're able to raise the body and to do whatever needs to be done with that. So the first thing is to remove that. You're going to leave a fabric on the private parts, so that's not visible. But everything else, you need to remove that. Now I'm going to act like we've removed it. I don't need to do that. So when the body is there, let me say a couple words if you deal with those situations. Okay, some of the things people deal with that situation, they don't know what to do. If you're dealing with an embalmed body, the first thing that comes to mind is, well, we're doing a ghusl, there's glue on that body. Right, where they did the stitches, there's glue, okay? Don't even try to remove that. You can't, and you're not supposed to, okay? If we had a choice for that not to happen, we would have stopped it. But you don't have a choice. They're going to do that. It's not under your control. Now the glue is there. The only way to remove it is to actually remove the skin, and we're not allowed to do that. Don't try it, and it's not supposed to be removed. So you're going to do ghusl that is called jabira. For those who are not familiar with that term, it means ghusl with bandages on. So sometimes you don't have access to the actual skin. For a living person, if you go through, I don't know, surgery or something where you have a bandage or something on your skin, you're not supposed to wash it. You're supposed to wash around it, and on that put something on top of it and wipe over it. In this case, the glue is already there. You use that as a jabira. You just wipe or you wash over it. You don't have to worry about removing that or the stitches or anything like that. Or if you're dealing with the second type of body that I was dealing with, where it's just open and it's bleeding, okay, don't let that get to you. There is water there. What you need to do is try to don't load it up with water, because it's going to keep bleeding. What you need to do, if there's cotton or something, try to put it where the wounds are. Get some water, start washing around those wounds. You don't worry about inside and where the wounds actually, the cuts are. Okay, so now with that, this is the body is prepared for the ghusl. I recommend that before you start the ghusl process, make sure your kafan is taken care of. Okay. Because if it's not, you're going to start facing difficulties after the ghusl. Once you start the process, you need to end it, and the ending of it is with the kafan. So what you want to do is prepare. There's two things about the preparation of the kafan that are necessary. I'm going to do it where you can see. So I'm going to open this up. I don't know whose these are, but I'm going to show you something. Hopefully, you're going to prepare it on another one of these boards. I'm going to remove the mannequin here. So I learned this actually from a couple of brothers, Brother Hassan Khafaji in California. They were more experienced, and I saw this was a really good technique. This is not about the ruling, it's about the technique. We can remove this. Unfortunately, this is not an actual person. It's not going to be difficult for us to get him off and on the thing. So on a separate bed, you would want to, they have separate ones, you would want to put the kafans in order. And I'm going to put them in order. Then when you're done with the body, you will move and transfer the body on the kafan. But before you, or while you're preparing the kafan and the different pieces, you need to make sure that the kafan is actually the right kafan. So you have kafan for men and kafan for women, right? You need to know that the wajibat are not different. The kafan of a brother or a sister are not different. There are three main pieces that are there. I'm going to explain and I'm going to show those pieces. So the first thing is that the kafans aren't different. The mustahabbat are different. The mustahabbat are not things you need to bother yourself with or worry about too much. Okay, don't focus on those things. I'm not going to focus on them. What's important, don't get bogged down by that in the process of, did I miss this? Don't even worry about it, because you're going to start losing focus. You may miss something on the wajibat. What's important is the wajib part of the kafan. So the wajib part of the kafan is three pieces. Starting with the first one that's on the body, it's supposed to cover from the belly button to the knees. Okay, that is one piece. That is sometimes called izar, sometimes it's called mi'zar. Both of those are used for it. From the belly button to the knees. Okay, if it covers a little more than that, that's fine, but it can't cover any less than that. All right, that's the first piece. Second piece is called qamis. It goes from the shoulders all the way to nisf al-saq, halfway between the knee and the ankles. Okay, it needs to at least cover that much. If it goes a little extra, that's fine, but any less than that doesn't count. All right, third piece is going to be covering the entire body from head to toe, and there's going to be a little extra to be able to wrap it at the end. These are the three pieces of the kafan. Now here's the issue. I'm going to open it up. We're going to see what these pieces are. This is probably the last piece, the bigger piece that's going to include the entirety of the body or cover the whole body. And it's, yeah, just one piece. Long piece. There you go. You put that. So since this is going to be the last piece, you're going to put that first. So we're doing the rules and we're doing the practical aspect of it. This is going to be the last piece, so when we put the other pieces and then we put the body on top, the first piece is going to be wrapped, and the second piece, and the last piece was going to be this one. The qamis part, you can tell what that is by, okay, you see it's folded here. Okay, this is supposed to go front and back. This is the qamis. You're supposed to cut this right here, okay? Once you cut this a little bit, you create a hole there. You don't have to cut, just cut like a plus sign there, this way and that way, and that'll open up enough. You can put it over the head of the person. Now, this is the length of this. For me, as you can see, this is covering a little more, right? But I have dealt with a couple of, both instances that I dealt with, the qamis was too short. Okay? The qamis, unfortunately, was too short. We put it on, and from the front side, it was there. It was halfway between the knee and the ankle. But from the back side, it went all the way only up to the knee, or down to the knee. The rest of it was not covered. Okay? So, the point is, and that's why I said first check this out. Check it and see, compare it to the body, see if it's at least going to cover that or not. So what happens if it is, obviously we know, and I'm going to show how you're going to do that practically. But if it isn't, what are we supposed to do? Usually these places, these funeral homes, mortuaries where you're going to be doing this, they have a lot of extra sheets there. Okay? So there's nothing special about this fabric. There's a writing on it, which is fine. You can keep it in there. That's still not one of the wajibat. What you need to have is fabric. Okay, you need to have fabric. They have plenty of fabric there. Measure the length. Get a fabric that's going to cover more than that, and double-sided, the two sides of the person. And then do the same thing we said here. Cut the center, get the whole piece that will cover both sides of the mayyit, and then cut the headpiece where you can put it on the mayyit. And the way you're going to be doing that practically is the following. So you're going to put the bottom side, once you cut that piece, you put this half that's going to be under it on here. You leave the other half hanging from the side. And the first piece that's going to be on them, the izar or the izar, the shorter piece, this is going to be wrapped around them. So that's longer than what's necessary. We'll put it right here. Now, when a mayyit, when someone passes, they don't have control, even if they're cut like what I talked about, there's a lot of bleeding going on. One of the rules that we have is that the kafan cannot be najis. Okay, so if you're burying it, you're burying the body, you realize the kafan is najis, you'll have to remove the body, change the whole kafan and do it. So what are we going to do? Alhamdulillah, thank Allah for plastic. So what you're going to do is over these three pieces, they have plastic, okay? And you're going to put that, we don't have that here so I can't show you that, but you have to have a piece that's at least as long as this, and they have specific ones where you can do that. You put it over this. When you put the body on it, you try to get rid of any najasa that you have that you can see, but then you put the plastic on here, you move the body on top of that plastic, then you start one by one. You just wrap this. Now if we can put the dummy or the mannequin on. Thank you. Okay. Now because this is now remembrance of death is important, and one of the reminders is that we don't know when a person passes. This mannequin is the size of a child. Okay, so all the rules that we're talking about apply to children as well. And so the pieces are going to be much smaller. The pieces we have are for adults, and there's many reasons for that. For a child, obviously, you would just have to cut them. You don't have to cut them. You can fold them, or if they hang, if there's extra, that's fine. You don't have to worry about that. In this case, we're going to have plenty of extra. We don't need to worry about it. It's not like if it's extra, oh, we have to cut it short. No, it needs to at least cover those pieces. So what we're going to do is just wrap this around both sides, right? And we haven't done the ghusl, so we're going to get to the ghusl. So I'm going to just show this part. This is assuming that the ghusl is already done, and we're wrapping this, and then since the cut is right there, you'll put the and the plastic is covering. So, we didn't have that to show. There's got to be a plastic here on the body covering it, and then this The head goes through that. Now you're going to be seeing the head, and this will cover the rest of the body. You don't have to worry about like tucking in or not. It's wide enough to just fall over. Then the last piece is going to be this top piece that you will wrap from both sides. And once you have wrapped, you need 3 pieces at least to wrap this. Now, if you have strings or whatever, you can do that. Otherwise, you can rip pieces of these sheets if there's extra. If there isn't, then there's plenty of fabric in those places where you can just rip off 3 longer pieces. You'll tie one in the center. You'll tie one down here. You just have to wrap this here and tie it. And one over here. And if you do it right and all the pieces down below are done right, if need be to reveal the face at some point for the loved ones that want to see his face, this is done so well that you just open this up. We alhamdulillah, were able, the brothers did a very good job this last time. Just open these 2 right here. The rest of it will remain tucked. And this piece, we're assuming we had cut this, the face is there. Just remove the plastic a little bit, make it look nice, and they'll be able to see it, and then wrap it up again. Put the plastic on, and then all you have to do is just wrap this piece again, tie it, and you're done. Any questions on the kafan before we move on to the ghusl? These are the wajibat. Again, I'm not even going to go over the mustahabat because there's no reason to get ourselves confused with some of the details of this piece, that piece. And one of the basic things is what is it called? The amam. There's an amama for a guy, for a brother, and then there's a qina. There's something to cover the head for a female. Which usually those mustahab matnas for women are not. They're not big enough usually to actually cover. I mean, the ones that I have seen, at least, they don't seem like they are big enough. But again, it doesn't matter. These are the pieces that you need to make sure of. And I think we covered everything regarding the kafan. Any questions?
So what did you do with the plastic? When did we get rid of it? Or
you don't get rid of it. It stays there. It gets buried with the plastic.
Okay, and there's no problem?
No, there's no problem with that.
And the direction, the head should face Qibla while doing ghusl, or there is no?
No, they don't have a
restriction on
requirement.
that. They can do wherever
Anywhere, yeah.
in any direction.
Any direction. Yes.
So the plastic is, you said, only when there is something oozing out from the body. If nothing is
usually there, as a precaution, always put it there because the body doesn't have control. You don't know if anything, is leaving the body afterwards. It'll save a lot. You don't want to, in front of all the family members and stuff. Oh, it's najas because there was a discharge of something. You don't want to do that. Just have the plastic on the body. It's safer to do that at all times.
Is keeping khakisha or a cake in the mouth, is that like mustahab, not wajib?
There is a recommendation. It's not a wajib thing. You can also put it in the kafan. Those are things that can be put inside the kafan. Usually they have it. The total that I'm keeping is like, this is what they put there. This is there's a couple of mustahabbat with this. One is to rub it on where they did the sajda and then leave it there. Some people do that.
And what about some people want to get buried with the prayer mat that they were using, and
that's not regarding burial. That has to do with wasiyah. If they had a wasiyah like that, they can do it, but I would encourage not to do some of those. Like, things are okay, like the one that you mentioned is okay, but sometimes there's like too many things and then people want to like bury their rings with them and things like that. I don't usually, at that point, it's an emotional point. I don't tell them you can't, or because we don't have a ruling that you can't, but there's no point in doing that. There's really no point in burying rings with the person. The prayer mat, or what they used to do, their night prayers, these are things that I haven't seen any hadith on any recommendation on it, but if people have, if a person has a wasiyah, then make sure, unless there's something haram with it, their own prayer rug, you can, they are allowed to, and you can bury it with them. That's perfectly fine.
Based on law requirements here in the States, I think the body has to be buried in a plastic bag.
So we have it there.
No, I'm talking about the big plastic bag, like normally is a thing to prevent any.
Exactly. No, that's not on top of the kafan. It's right. That's the plastic bag I was talking about that you put before the kafan. So we had that. That's why I'm saying they provide you with that plastic. Now I didn't know it's a law requirement, but it's for us it's really good.
Yeah, state requirement, same thing as that. I'm sorry, I just said that.
That's fine.
Big plastic bag.
Is it clear or is it not?
It's black.
Okay, then I don't know what that is, because in California what we had was this clear plastic, it was very long, it was thick, okay? But we wrapped the body in it. It wasn't zipped or anything like that, okay? If it's plastic, if it's foldable, okay, and you can put it. The body was in it when we brought it in, right? There is this piece, this. I guess, I don't know what to call it, but this bag that has a zipper and everything, the body was carried in it, but we weren't required to bury it with that. So we took it out of that, we washed it, and then afterwards we had this other plastic that the mortuary has, not just for us, to have it for everybody. We had to wrap it in that, and it covers the whole body, and then the kafan was over that. So my point is, if it's another layer as a cloth or something, in this case the material is plastic, that's not an issue. You can do that first and then do the kafan over it. Okay. And the good thing about it.
If I recall correct, a few years ago when one brother passed away, we buried him here in Nashville. We did all of this, and we have some brothers who take care of these issues, like as far as ghusl and kafan and everything. But then I recall, if you guys have been there, they had to put him in a big plastic bag.
With my father too, it was the same thing. They put the plastic thing after the coffin.
Yes.
Once we did the coffin, they had a black bag.
We didn't have to do
and
that.
they told us to put it in.
Are you sure it's law?
In your state law.
In lieu of coffin.
I know, but are you sure that that's law? Or that's just how that the cemetery functions?
No, I believe it is a state law that you have to put in a plastic
Look
bag.
into it, because some of these things are not laws. Some of these things are things that the funeral home or the cemetery does. That's their procedure, okay? Not law. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm saying get to the bottom of it, because what you need to do is eventually you need to have your own cemetery. Okay, the cemetery that there's a couple of cemeteries, Shia cemeteries and Muslim cemeteries. There's particular Shia ones, a few of them in California, and so with those we do it exactly the way we want. So in non-Muslim cemeteries, they require a coffin. Okay, in this one we didn't even use a coffin. We just lowered the body with a piece under them to protect the body. Then once they're down there, we tilted the body to the side, removed that. The body is being buried without any coffin. Okay, it's just the body there on the soil. So once you know exactly those laws, you're moving in that direction. You need to know what exactly is law, where you can't avoid, and see what Islamically you need to do about that. Which in this case, if it's just that, that's not a problem. We actually have a recommendation over these pieces to have another piece. Okay, so that's not a problem. That itself isn't a problem. Even a coffin isn't a problem. Okay, if there's a coffin, there's a way of doing it. But we don't require. There's no need. That's an extra cost. And then in the Muslim cemetery, we don't do that. We don't need to have it. We don't have it. But if that's a requirement, if it's just that, that's not a problem. It's that we can do that over the kafan too. There's another piece that's recommended that can act as
One
that.
more question.
Sure.
Back home in Najaf, for instance, in Karbala, when they bury the dead person, there's something called lahad.
Lahad, yeah.
Side way, so to speak. I mean, the side of the hole or the dig, they bury him inside, right? It's not right straight in the dig.
Yeah.
Here, I think they don't do that.
Yeah.
So those things are not requirements like the way they make the actual grave. The requirement is this, that you're supposed to have the mayyit facing or lying on the right side facing the qibla. Okay, so that will mean this is the right side of the mayyit. Which way is qibla here? Okay, so I'd have to turn this around, and it needs to be buried like this. Whether it's in a coffin or in the grave, it needs to be like this. Okay, how you're going to do that, you have different options. In California, where we didn't have a coffin, it was very easy. You have all that dirt. Brothers brought and we just poured it on the side and make sure everything's support is there, it's lying firm. Then we did all the talqinat and everything. We didn't have an issue. If you have a coffin, if they allow you to put soil in the coffin, then take soil and create that same thing in the coffin. If they don't allow you to do that, whatever they allow you, if wood is allowed or whatever, put it there, make it support. The body needs to be faded. This is the requirement. Besides that, how you do that is not a requirement. You're flexible with that. Okay, if you are allowed to use soil, then that's the easiest thing, and it's what the body is going to be dealing with later anyway. And so you just put that, make that support, and then we are recommended to create a little pillow with soil. Okay, so you put soil. If they allow you there, like the first body I buried in Northern California, it was a non-Muslim cemetery. I didn't have any control over that. The family was completely irreligious. We barely were able to do the shrouding and the ghusl right. Okay, they kept pushing us. This is taking too long, and unfortunately, it was a very bad situation. So the only thing I could do was to, even the qibla direction was a problem. We had to get as close as we could, and unfortunately, these people were not cooperative anyway, or in any way. So basically, what I did there was I took soil and I tried to create that inside the coffin, right? In California, though, because I mean in SoCal, where we had this recent case on the Muslim cemetery, it was just soil. There's no coffin. A lot easier creating that little pillow with soil, and the support in the back was all very easy. But again, I emphasize that you're flexible on the material you use. If it's not illegal, you can use soil. Otherwise, you can use other means to try to make sure the body is on the right side facing Qibla.
So once you're covered with plastic, are we allowed to put mud right away? But in India, what happens is like they'll give a space of about 6 feet. So you would put some stones, and you're not putting mud directly on the body, but on the stones.
Either way is fine.
There is a gap. So here, I don't know like how it
No, they put a slab here.
Okay.
They block it with a clay or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not 6 feet. It's really next to the body.
It depends.
Yeah. So here in
Like maybe 6 inches
Yeah.
above the.
Okay, but like creating some gaps so
Yeah.
that you're not putting directly.
Yeah, there's no requirement for
There's no
that.
requirement.
You can do it either way.
I didn't know about the tilt.
Yeah.
I mean, when we buried my dad, he was straight, but we just tilted his head towards the Qibla. We didn't tilt the whole body.
The whole body is supposed to be. Now that's in the past, there's nothing that can be done about it, but what needs to happen is that the whole body needs to be tilted.
Yeah, I didn't know
to
that.
the right, yeah.
I had no clue.
I have a question. So we need to do talqeen before putting it in the plastic?
Talqeen is a recommendation. No. Talqeen is, there are different stages for talqeen. For example, before the person passes, we have recommendations. They're on their deathbed, be there around them, tell them to repeat those words, which is the actual talqeen. Okay? That's one stage of talqeen. The other stage of talqeen, from what I can recall right now, I don't recall a talqeen between the stage of ihtidar, which is when they're dying, and the stage of burial. Okay? So when they are being buried, that's when the talqeen is, and there's a long list of hadith, different wordings, but generally the idea is to remind the mayyit that there's no God but God. Allah is their Rabb, their Lord, and that Prophet Muhammad is their Prophet, and the A'imma or their Imams, mentioning them one by one would be preferable, and then doing istighfar for them, saying Allahumma ghfir Adam, Allahumma ghfir Adam, Allahumma ghfir, as many times as you can repeat. That's the general idea of talqeen. It's not wajib, very much recommended. The idea is this: it doesn't have to be in Arabic, you can do it in any language. The idea is to remind the person of their Lord, of their faith, yes, the Prophet, the Imams, and repeat that a number of times. That's talqeen, to get them to be reminded of those things, and it's very crucial points, and inshallah that is beneficial for them.
And what about shaking the?
In some of the ahadith, it's not shaking. It's like when you want to, someone's that's not paying attention, you're like, hey, this, that's the idea. You touch them here and say, Filan, you call them by their name. You say, such and such, brother this, or brother that, or sister this. You say that, listen to me. Okay? Isma' ifham, listen, understand, Allah is your Lord. And
Is it mandatory to do like this, or we can do it like?
no, it says the shoulder, right? The hadith says, and not all the hadith say the shoulder, or to do it at all. It's the words that you say. This idea is, these are some of the things are actually more beneficial for us because the deceased is not there. This doesn't really have an effect on them, but it's really a reminder for us. We need to be reminded. You listen. Your Lord is Allah, and the soul is around. They do hear. That's why we're told that. But some of these gestures are maybe some of it has to do with us. But the point I'm trying to clarify is that I was checking the hadith. It's not one way of doing it, okay? And that shaking is not something that is repeated in the hadith. What is repeated is the wording. Even the wording is not exactly the same, which tells us that we're flexible with wording. We're flexible. The idea is this, to remind the person. Some of these gestures of moving, it's to get the attention of the person. We can do it that way. We can do it different ways. Just calling them a few times before we start the process of telling them what it is. These are different ways of doing the same thing. That's the idea that's there behind talqeen.
So we have to go. Do we have to go inside the grave to recite talqeen, or we can do recite outside the grave?
Both of those are there. It's better to combine them, meaning the better part is to be with the body, but we do hadith that afterwards, like when they're outside of the grave, that you can do that too. It's not a must, but usually you would want to have someone down there taking care of the body when they're done with making sure the support is there, the direction is right and everything, the pillow is made out of soil, then you start doing the talqeen for the mayyit.
So one guy have to touch and one guy have to recite?
No, we don't have that. The same person can do this, but you can do it like that. It's not. There's nothing wrong with that. If one guy, keeps shaking them or reminding them in that way by, getting their attention, as I said, that's fine. That's a person
Take
can do that.
signatures and we attach it to the
40 believers.
yeah. So it's not like mandatory or
It's not mandatory. No. And it's not about written signatures. It's about 40 believers saying, "Oh Allah, we consider this person a believer. We didn't see anything wrong from them. And if you saw anything, forgive them." That's the idea. Now, so what some people do is get written signatures and so on and so forth, which is not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
Sometimes we dig grave and water comes out, and we're trying, but water is not stopping. What should we do in that case? It happened to one of the brothers in New York, and I was very surprised to see that they were cleaning, drying up, but again water was oozing out. And what is the ruling on that? Do we need to have a complete dry grave or?
No, we don't have. That's not a ruling that it needs to be dry.
So it's okay to bury it if there's water there?
There were certain regions, like in certain parts of Khuzestan, where I spent part of my childhood in. If you would dig a meter underground, you get to water. Certain seasons, that's just how it is. And what are they supposed to do? Whatever you try to take out the water, it's just going to keep coming. There's so much water underground. That's just how it is. No, we don't have a ruling that says it's wrong for water to be there.
I have two questions. So we see sometimes that we would recite Surah Al-Mulk 41 times on a piece of cloth, and they would put it around the neck of the body and they bury it. Is that mustahab, or is that something that's culturally made? And then people like to have something on their kafan, like kalma and things. Does that really make a difference?
As you can see, there's writings. There's dua. I don't know if it's Joshan Kabir or what exactly. There's certain du'as that are written. Some of them are taken from the hadith. There's numerous hadith. Okay, I can't claim that I've seen all of the hadith. So this idea of the recitation of Surah Mulk on a fabric, putting it there, I haven't seen it. But there may be some hadith that suggests it. I haven't seen it in Risalas either. The last thing on that is, there's nothing wrong with it. And the recitation of Surah Mulk, as many times as a person wants, there's benefits to that. There's nothing wrong with it. We don't need to stop that or stop anyone from doing that.
I last time doing Ghusl.
Okay, so we're done with this. There's two procedures before the kafan. Okay, two procedures, not one. There's ghusl and then there's hunut. There's two procedures. One is the washing, then hunut. Okay? So, because I started with the last one, I'm going to go with the reverse order, so I'm gonna do the hunut first. Don't forget this part. Okay. This part. So for hunut, which is after ghusl and before doing the kafan, you need to do hunut. You can't do hunut before ghusl. We're assuming the ghusl is done. Then we're gonna get to the process of ghusl itself. So the ghusl is done. I've prepared the kafan. I've moved the body here, or I can do this while the body has not been moved onto the kafan area. Hunut is basically rubbing kafur. Rubbing kafur on the places of sajda. So you're gonna get the forehead and a little bit of the nose. That's recommended. All of that nose right there, the top part of it, that's recommended. But the important part that is wajib is the forehead. You're gonna rub it on the hands where the sajda is done. The palms of the hands, the areas you're gonna rub the kafur on, and then the toes here, the big toe mainly. If it gets on the other ones, it's okay. But the one you need to make sure is on is the toe that is used in sajda, okay? You're gonna rub it with kafur. They have those in packages. Make sure you have it. You need kafur for the ghusl as well. So with the remainder of the kafur, you do this. This is called hunut. And
how about the knees?
What's that?
How about the knees?
Recommended. Oh no, sorry, excuse me. And I don't know why I missed it. No, it's wajib, of course. Sajda requires the knees. I don't know why I missed it. Knees, right? Forehead, palms of the hands, knees and toes. Those are necessary.
So it's like the 7 parts.
Seven parts of sajda, exactly. All 7 parts have got to be rubbed with kafur. That is called hunut, all right? This cannot be missed because it's a small thing, and because it's not a long procedure, and for other reasons people may forget it, So kafur is putting that's called hunut. Now the ghusl, okay. So the ghusl of a mayyit is the same as the ghusl of a person, a living person. There's no difference between the ghusl. The thing is, we need to do 3 ghusls on a mayyit, 3 ghusls. The first ghusl has got to be with sidr, okay? Sidr, you need to have that. It's a substance, it's leaves that have been crushed, right? They sell it, I'm sure you have access to it. You have to ask for sidr, you need to have. And the water needs to have some. It can't be too little, and it can't be like loaded with it where it just, have enough in it where you can actually see it when you're looking. It's clear this is not pure water. It's got sidr in it, but you don't need to put a ton in there. One of the things that these brothers that had a lot of experience, years of experience that I learned, they had a sink there, so they would put a lot of sidr in this case in the main bucket, but they won't use that to pour it. They had a pitcher, so the water is running there, and the sidr is in that big bucket. What they do is they just take a pitcher out of that, they use it, and then the next pitcher, and by the time they're done, there's still some sidr there in that. So bigger bucket that they have under the faucet and under the tap, and they're taking the pitcher, using it, makes things a lot more convenient. Instead of having to pour it in the pitcher, put the sidr there, put some water, then use that, and again put sidr, have a bigger bucket, put more sidr in it, and then while you're adding water, then at each pitcher that you take is going to take some of that, and there'll be some left by the end of it. So you take that water, you do the ghusl. It's head and neck first. There's different rulings that Maraja have about post head and neck. For example, Al-Sistani says there's no order between right and left, okay? So for a mayyit, once you're sure, you lift the head a little bit, make sure water's gotten back there. You don't have to be too particular. It's water, it covers it. So you pour a little bit on and just lift a little bit, make sure it's there. This can be especially difficult when, as I said, the body's either embalmed or autopsy is done. In the case of the brother, I didn't tell you about this, but the head was open too. That was not a pleasant scene, and they hadn't sewed it all. So once you lift it, it's very difficult. You have to. One other tip, right? Practical tip. The boards, or the I don't want to call them beds. The counter, I guess, that you have the body on. Nowadays, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of options you have. You can tilt it. They have little I guess, gutter-like things on the sides. Not as much of the gutter, it's just a little bit lower where the water can flow from. You can actually arrange what direction you want this to be tilted towards. You want to, try to tilt it in one direction. In this case, probably the feet would be the case. So if you're using qalil water, when you use pitcher and the body is bleeding, this is qalil water, right? But if it's tilted, then if this running water is najis, it runs by, you're going to be okay. You don't have to worry about it. So you lift a little bit, you get the head and then the neck. Now going back to the ruling of the difference between Sayyid Sistani and some of the others, if the person is following Sayyid Sistani, maybe you could, do the whole thing. But the point I was trying to make is, you can take precaution, just do the standard that most Malaja agree. Sayyid Sistani says you don't have to go right and then left. So it'll make it easier. You just do the whole front part and then turn to one side and do the rest of it. But just to be on the safe side, go with the common fatwa that everybody has. Do the right side first, the right side of the mayyit. You have to, wash over this, and then you have to get some help. You can raise the leg and get the bottom of that as well. You can raise the hand and get the bottom of that as well. For the back, you need to tilt it, the body. You need some help, and then you'll be able to wash the back side of the body on the right side. And then the same procedure goes for the left side. You wash the top part and then raise the leg a little bit. You can get the whole of the leg, the hand similarly, and then for the back side, tilt it the other way with the help of the people that are there, and wash this side as well. And the private parts, as I said, there's going to be a cloth there. The rest of the body is uncovered. There's going to be a cloth there. Without looking, you're supposed to make sure that that area is covered. There's going to be a little bit of touching to make sure that it has reached the area. But if there's enough water, you don't have to worry about it too much. Obviously, you're going to wash that area. It's recommended to wash with both sides, right and left. But in terms of the actual wajib, it's not necessary, but it's just easier to do. Each side that you wash, the private parts, wash that as well. And so that's the first ghusl with sidr. After that, you have to repeat it again a second time, the whole ghusl process with kafur this time. Again, they sell those. Have a big bucket, put some kafur in the big bucket. The water is running on it. Take pictures. Again, the head, right side and left side. And the last stage of it is to do with just plain water. Okay, the last ghusl is with plain water. You go through the same procedure. 3 ghusls are done. So here's the situation now. Once the 3 ghusls are done, you're ready for hunut and then the takfin, or putting the kafan on, right? Sometimes you may face a situation where you're not certain if the ghusl were good. The first time I did the ghusl, I told you there was the body had been embalmed, and I didn't have my books with me to make sure. I had never heard of Ghusl al Mayyit that is jabira. I told you guys, now you know, okay? I didn't know at that point. That was the first time, so I was like, is this going to count? Is it not? And what you want to do in cases where you don't have access to ghusl is that you're going to do tayammum, okay? You're going to do tayammum, and the way you're going to do that tayammum is, now again, I guess things are getting more advanced. They had a bucket of dirt in this place that we were in. So we asked for dirt. They had a bucket. We bought it and we use it. We're going to do the tayammum on it. So you're not going to use the hands of the mayyit. When we're doing it, we use our own hands and we rub. The touching part, that's not the tayammum part. Using hands that have some soil on them or have touched the soil, have touched the earth, and wiping it on the forehead and on the back of the hands, that's tayammum. So we're going to be doing the tayammum. That means I'm going to be hitting whatever that soil or the earth is that I'm going to hit, and then I'm going to use my hands and do the tayammum first on that, and then the hands from the wrist down, I just put my hand there, just go like that, and this hand, put my hand there, go like that, and it's fine, okay?
So you're
that will be a
saying
tayammum.
the person who's gonna give tayammum to the mayyat has to do tayammum themselves first?
No. I'm saying, I'm just clarifying, you don't need to take the hands of the mayyit and, put it on the dirt. You can't even do that,
Yeah.
right? So don't think that way. These are thoughts that came in my, how am I going to do the tayammum with this? This is how you do it,
So
right? You use
only
my hand.
only your right hand for both, or right hand for right and left hand for left?
You can do either of those. For the forehead, you need
Yeah,
both
both
hands.
hands.
For these hands, you can do either. It's about getting the soil on there. Okay. Or not the soil. You don't have to like make
Yeah.
sure soil's on there. You know what I mean.
But like tayammum come into picture when there is no water, right?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, you may face a situation where after doing the 3 ghusls, like when this last body that was cut open, it's bleeding. The brothers just wanted to do tayammum. Now I got there, I said, no, we have to do ghusl, and the ghusl is going to be fine. After we did the ghusl, the brother didn't feel comfortable that it's done, because it's a big deal. You have to make sure that the ghusl is done properly. He, I guess, wasn't sure that this ghusl counts or not. He wanted to, as precaution, do tayammum as well. Now, I was there, I knew for sure we don't need that. But I'm just telling you this, that sometimes when you're doing that ghusl, you may face a situation where you're not sure if this ghusl counts or not. You don't know the rulings, okay? And as a precaution, in addition, because we don't have a situation here where we lack water, once you're done, for whatever reason, if you have doubts, you want to take precaution. You want to be sure that we don't want to dig this body up again, okay? We don't want to do that. We want to make sure if the body is... So, as a precaution, I will do tayammum as well, okay? In addition. Sometimes you don't need to do that. Don't think that, oh, always we need to do it. I just explained to you 2 situations that I've dealt with, and I can tell you for a fact that in those cases, the ghusl is sufficient. You don't need to do tayammum. But if you face a situation, where you're not comfortable because you need to make sure you've done it properly, for whatever reason, you don't know the rules and you want to make sure you have done it, everything in your ability, you want to do a tayammum as well, this is how you do a tayammum on the mayyit. Okay.
So like everything was done, 3 ghusl were done, like it was an inborn body and some bleeding is coming out.
Like this, or we have to rub this way only?
Yeah, that's not something you need to worry about, the bleeding that happens. Yeah, you can wipe it, but you're not going to stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
The plastic will take care of that. The plastic layer that is beneath, the first layer that goes over the body, remember, was plastic.
Yeah.
Once you do that, if the kafan doesn't get najas, then you're okay. The body, we're not told that you need to remove all. You removed it, but it's going to keep coming. You can't stop it. What you need to make sure of is that it's not on the kafan. Okay.
And do we have to rub only one side, or we can rub like this?
You don't need to go like this.
Like-
Once is
okay.
enough.
Okay.
I mean, as soon as you're
One
done with that,
side.
it's done. It's finished.
Okay.
So going backwards again, there's no need for it. It's not haram, but there's no need for it. Once you go like that, it's done.
Okay.
It's finished. Okay.
You need to rub kafur before the ghusl is done or?
No, after. So the procedure again, the order is ghusl, wash it 3 times. The order of ghusl is what? First is what? Sidr. Then kafur. Then plain water. So we did the ghusl. After that, we do the hunut, which is 7 parts that go for sajda. You need to rub them with kafur. That's the next thing. After that, it's the kafan. In terms of practically, I said prepare the bed for the kafan. And the way you do that is put the layers of the kafan the way you are, and then put the plastic bag over them. So once you're done with the ghusl and the hunut, then you put the body there, wrap it up with the different layers of it, and then tie it up in the end, and you're done.
So I'm guessing the plastic bag should only be needed for the first part, because the other parts, they're just layers on top of layers? Or do you need 3 different plastic bags?
No. Just one plastic bag, just to make sure najasa does not get into the kafans, okay? Because once najasa gets to the kafans, you have to redo it. I looked at the risala to try to find a loophole so that, because I mean it's just really difficult, especially with bodies like this. They hand it to you as just bleeding. What are you going to do with that? It's not a shaheed that doesn't require a kafan.
Right.
We have to do. How are you going to do that? Okay, there's no way to stop the bleeding. I mean, you have to have a whole surgery team. I don't know, lower the temperature of the body such that it just stops bleeding. It's not going to do that. So the only way that is possible today is to deal with that is to have that plastic, 1 layer of plastic first before the layers of kafan, and then the layers of kafan over that.
You might have just opened another can of worms by mentioning the shaheed. So if someone is shaheed,
Shaheed in the battlefield,
okay, so
fighting.
you don't need to give them kafan or ghusl, you just bury them?
They bury them with the clothes that they have, yeah.
I know ghusl, you get nothing, just bury them.
No. Their kafan or their clothes.
For the ones you mentioned, right? So if they have a wound on the top, like on the head or something,
What about it? You can't like stop the bleeding or get rid of that. When you're washing it with the water for ghusl, right? So you're using a lot of water in the pitcher. You pour a lot of water. The first stage of that will be washing it washes the blood off, and then the rest of what you're pouring is, you don't need to do, I'm emphasizing, don't do it in 2 stages because you're not going to stop the bleeding. Make the intention that as soon as the blood is over, the rest of it is going to do the ghusl for you. Okay, so I keep pouring. There's a cut there. It's going to keep bleeding. It's not going to stop. I keep pouring water. My intention is the second that the blood is off, the rest of it counts for ghusl. Okay, and as soon as I move it, I know it's going to start bleeding again, right? Yeah. But I did the ghusl. It's done. I don't have to worry about the bleeding afterwards. Okay.
Is there any intention for ghusl al kafur and like?
No.
Nothing. Just started.
Just whatever it is.
Are there any major differences between men and women, or is this pretty much the same for both?
The rulings are the same. Obviously, I've only watched men,
right,
and I'm supposed to only watch
right,
men. I don't have experience with that. Sisters who've had experience, if there's any practical tips, they would be able to do that. But in terms of the rulings, no, they are the same. There's no difference.
I have 2 questions. So one is with the Ghusl al Mayyit, and once we touch the Mayyit before ghusl, can we participate in
The prayer, Salatul Mayyit?
not prayer, like for helping in the ghusl or something? Like if we touch the Mayyit before?
Okay, yes. So the rulings on, we have 2 rulings regarding the Mayyit. If we touch it. One has to do with najasa. The body, once the body is cold, before ghusl, the body is najis. Okay? So if your hands are wet, or the body is wet, you touch it, then you become najis. You have to wash yourself. The person who does the ghusl, right, their hands, their clothes become najis if it splashes on them. If it's qalil water and it splashes on them, according to the fatwa, it becomes najis. But the ruling is the person who's washing the body, once they're done with the 3 ghusls, without washing their hands or the clothes, they're tahir. They don't have to worry about it. But if you didn't do the ghusl, you touch the body with wet hands, you became najis, you have to wash your hand. But the person who's doing the ghusl, no, they don't have to worry about it. Okay?
So they have to wash it first and then they have to do ghusl?
No. The ghusl is the only thing that makes it tahir. So you wash it right now. Is it tahir now? No. The body is najis. The najis is the body itself. How do you make the najis tahir in this case? By the ghusl. So you do first, second, third ghusl. When the 3rd ghusl is done, now if anybody with wet hands comes and touches it, they're tahir. They don't have to worry about it. That's one ruling. The other ruling is Ghusl al Mayyit. A mayyit that has passed, if you touch it, you've got to perform Ghusl al Mayyit. Okay? You have to perform ghusl. So that is something that the person who does the ghusl also has to perform. That's not an exemption. It's only for the najasa of the body and the najasa of the hands and the clothes of the one who does the ghusl. But Ghusl al Mayyit, it's a ruling that is, they will have to do that afterwards. For the Salatul Mayyit or for the burial process, they don't require that. None of the processes of the burial require tahara. You don't need to be tahara. Even the prayer is not like a regular prayer. You'll stand in lines and you do takbir and then shahadatain, salawat and dua and so on. That does not require tahara. You can participate in that afterwards. You have to do ghusl al mayyit for the prayers that you want to do afterwards. Like dhuhr, asr, maghrib, isha. Your own prayers you want to do, you have to have wudu for that. You have to do ghusl for that.
So if you have to do ghusl al mayyit, right? And the prayer time is getting over, like a maghrib time or something like that. So in that case, what we need to do, like?
If the time is short, the ruling is you have to do tayammum. And so instead of ghusl, do your prayer, and then afterwards you need to do ghusl. Because the reason why you didn't do ghusl was the time frame for that particular prayer. For the next prayer, you have to do your ghusl.
So a person passed away, and someone held him to make sure that he was lie down in the right direction, tying his feet and all. Now he is najis. He cannot do ghusl for that mayyat until he do a ghusl al mayyit.
No. He can do the ghusl and everything.
He will become
Are there any other questions?
So can you tell me why it is important? And then we also see that cotton or anything like that.
You put what? Oh, cotton? Okay, that's something that's done. I think it's recommended. I'm not sure. I don't remember exactly, but I vaguely remember it's recommended. They put cotton in the nostrils, in the mouth, and the private parts. Okay, those are areas that you put cotton in. I think it's recommended. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly, so I won't say it as a fact. You can check it, or if you want, I can check it and get back to you. It is something that's done. I think it's recommended.
How many people? Oh, I'm sorry. You can continue.
With the Hunut, I don't know what the important why it's made, but that is a ruling that we have. It's wajib. It's not a recommendation for us. These are the parts of sajda we have got to wipe them with kafur. Kafur is something that has got a strong scent to it as well. That may have something to do with the sajda parts and the mayyit. But I don't know exactly what the philosophy behind it is.
So, how many people do you recommend to do Ghusl al Mayyit?
2 people you should be able to do it.
Okay.
One of the things that I saw that was really nice is that this brother Hassan Khafaji, who was doing it, he had his 2 sons. One of them was younger. That was the first time he was seeing it. He was giving them the experience. So 2 people are required. It's very good, this idea of, taking the younger people to help with it, so they get, it's a scene that they need to get accustomed to. People are like, oh no, don't let the children see and all that. Well, this is something this is human life. This is what we would deal with, and then it's important. It's actually beneficial for them to see this process and learn it, and they'll be able to do it. Especially they're like teenagers in their late teens. We can get help from them, or they can come and watch, help on the side a little bit. But the main people who do it, 2 people should be enough.
I'm still confused with that. I'm sorry. I'm asking my question again. Person touches the body, he became najis. So you are telling that the same person can do Ghusl al Mayyit. So it means that for doing Ghusl al Mayyit, there is no need to be tahir. He can be a najis and do Ghusl al Mayyit.
There's 2 things here. I understand the confusion. It's not like it's a different type of ruling. Like the idea that all this najasa got onto my clothes and on my hands. Once I'm done with the ghusl, it's all tahir. Okay, that's not a normal ruling that we have. So I can understand the confusion, right? The thing is, when you say the body is najis, so how do you do this ghusl? The first pitcher of water I pour on this, it all becomes najis. Isn't it the case? If the body is najis, when I pour this water, does the water not become najis?
Yeah, but like the person who's doing, he himself is najis before starting the ghusl, right?
From what? From the same body?
Yeah, from the same
body. As soon as you start doing the ghusl, the same thing happens.
It's the same water.
So the water
the same
that
thing happens.
makes the body tahir makes you tahir.
It's a different set of rulings. Yes, if your hands have some other najasa, God forbid there's urine on it, or some, blood from some other source on it, or whatever, wash your hands. But otherwise, I'm preparing the body, and my hand is wet. My hand touched this. Now I have to go. You can, yes, there's no problem. You can go wash your hands, but as soon as you start the ghusl, the same thing happens. The first time you touch the body, it's still najis. Your hand has become najis from the body. So this is a special rule in this case. The najasa that has to do with the body. For the person who's dealing with the body, don't worry about it. If it's touching the body, I'm going to be doing the ghusl. I'm doing the ghusl. Don't worry about it. Finish it. Once you're done with the 3 ghusl, this whole thing that was najis, the body and the water on me, everything is tahir.
Like, if you're so you have to do the
Ghusl al Mayyit is a different thing. This is about the najasa. Yes, I will have to do Ghusl al Mayyit afterwards for my prayers and so on. Okay, good? Done?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Very well.
A loud salawat for the Shaykh.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.